come back in? You certainly can.
Yeah, I said, Becky, even though you're on mute, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the first couple of slides again. That's kind of my intro in, and just in case anybody, because I know Jason, unless he reviewed them, has not seen this before. And so it's going to be a quick review. I'm going to try to embed myself into the remaining slides. I think I put together 4 this time to keep it to a minimum. Also is I'll give it to Donna, and if you want them, you can have them, or you can wait till the series is over, because all I'm going to do is every one of these, I'm going to build a few more slides. So when we get done, we'll have probably a 30 slide deck, 30, 35.
Nice. And welcome, Caitlin. Good to see you again. So, Bill, would you like me to do a little introduction? Yeah. Ready to get started?
I'm ready.
Okay. Well, let's get started. Welcome to part 2 of our series, Reading the Economy. Today's webinar is Lowest Cost Producer. And you might be wondering, why is it important for business owners and independent professionals to be able to read the economy? Well, because anyone who sells a product or service has to realize that we're just selling widgets. No matter what our product and service is, it's really just a widget. And this widget is just a vehicle to gain cash flow. And it's cash flow that makes a business and not just an expensive hobby. So being able to read the economy gives business owners a leg up on the real competition, which we find to be the economy itself. Our approach uses a combination of natural universal laws and the concept of anti-fragile as described in the book by Nassim Taleb. As a primer, we're specifically talking about the law of rhythm as it applies to ocean waves and the economy. So any of you that saw part 1, you've seen the ocean wave. Bill's going to put that up again. The law of rhythm, in its simplest form, says that everything is moving in perfect rhythm and at perfect speed. And sometimes things seem out of rhythm when in reality it's just a rhythm that makes us uncomfortable. And I think that's where most of us are finding ourselves right now. Nature operates in predictable rhythms, and we can predict the sunrise on any given day. And if you don't believe me, Google sunrise April 13th, 2025, and you're going to find that the sun will rise precisely at 6:37 a.m. And how does Google know that? It's the law of rhythm. So before we get into the meat of the webinar, let me just say that who you learn from matters. That's something that I have been following now for the last 5 years or so. I didn't realize how important it is. So just to introduce us, my business partner that you see here, he's on the upper left there, is William Eastman, and he has an impressive 40-year track record as a business consultant with well-known big-name businesses, spent time as a marine scientist in the U.S. Coast Guard, and from this background, he began to notice similarities in how nature and successful businesses operate, which is what we're going to be talking about today. I am Donna Kunde, the other half of the equation, and I bring 35 years of academic and applied cognitive and behavioral sciences, and together we are 2020 Sales Solutions. So with that, Bill, over to you.
I see Jason changed his picture, so he's back.
Yes.
Jason, which one are you? Okay, enough of that. All right, let's get down to business here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to the slide deck, and as I said before, it's always available to everybody. It's going to be accumulative. So what I'll be doing is, as I build it, each show will get 4, maybe 6 slides, and I'm going to jump around this. So I'm not going to go through every slide because that would be redundant, and we have 30 minutes. All right. So, really good, Bill. Let's try this again.
And welcome back to Charles. Charles George is back with us again. Good to see you again.
Apparently I must have moved something around this morning. Here we go. All right, so the purpose behind this is, let's use yoga as one of the examples, is that during an economic contraction, as a business owner, we have no control over this stuff. All we can do is maybe get in front of it, predict it, make the right moves, but we are, I don't want to say victims because I hate the word victim, but we're also, it happens to us and it's a matter of what we do in response. So that when you got an economic downturn in the economy, view it as go to yoga class and strengthening the core of the business. You're strengthening your own core. That the better you're organized and stronger inside, then one, you can get through this thing. And then number two is that when we come out, and we always come out, you're going to come out stronger. And so actually, when you look at it more from a long-term perspective, you're going to be a better company because of it. And your competitors might struggle through it, or your competitors may be gone. Who knows how they're going to do it. And one of the things that Donna and I like to play with is that history is a corkscrew. Great quote by Mark Twain. History doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. And what that means is that the economy, if we talk about this in business cycles, every 8 to 12 years, the economy runs a cycle. You go from crest to trough to crest to trough. If we look at the economic downturn of 1919 through 1921, you can see that downturn, and then 21 to 28, then 28 to 40. World War II, you just got to take off the table because it's a different set of factors. We didn't have any real economic downturn in the United States until 79. You can see 79 to 83. We had a slight downturn in 1991. Same thing in 99 and 2000 through 2001. And then, of course, 2007, 2008. So what's going on right now is not that unpredictable, except that sometimes the downturn in the economy is a function of just the economy runs out of steam, and sometimes it's a function of an external event. And so, for example, what we're going through right now with COVID-19 is an external event that's happening to us. So I'm going to put this graph up. If you've seen it before, I apologize. I'm going to go through it quickly, but it sets the context for where we're going. So the old marine scientist in me said, okay, I look at these waves that go through the economy much the way that I would look at a wave, a sea wave. And you've got the crest, you've got the trough, and as an oceanographer, what do you measure? You measure the height of the wave, and you measure what's called peridocity, the amount of time between crests or troughs. You just got to be consistent in the measure, because what you want to know is how steep is the face of the wave. A 100-foot wave that has a long period in it, you can probably get through it if your boat's big enough. A 100-foot wave that are close together, I don't care what you're in, aircraft carrier, it's going to take you down. And so the economy goes through these same things. So, for example, when I talked about 2007, 2008, we went through the trough, and we really didn't come out to the crest until this year. And, of course, COVID now is driving us down the other side. So for discussion purposes, I added here some terminology that I got from Wall Street. When I was doing large corporate consulting, one of the things that I used to do is I would research a company in terms of the economy. I would read the SEC reports so that when I had a meeting with the chief executive officer or somebody in the C-suite, I could act like I knew something about their company. And I found that a lot of times I knew more about the company than they did, because they were like, how'd you know that? And I didn't really want to say, well, it was in your SEC filing, Securities and Exchange Commission filing last month. But it taught me something about how to read the economy. And when I started working with small business about 15 years ago, I went, if anybody needs this, it's small business people, because the large corporations have staff. They hire economists. They hire researchers. They should know this stuff. Small business owner, you're trying to get the bills out the invoices out on Saturday so you get paid. So what I did is I took these 6 stages and said, what is the smart reaction by a business owner, and then looked at the historical record. So where I'm going to start this is where we were on Monday. And so when you get to the top, and this issue of distress, in other words, the stock market term here is, I know we're at the top, and I can almost see over the top of the wave, and it's going to be a long way down. So you're kind of like, oh, God. All right, so as a business owner, and if we use the current environment as an example, where should I have been a month or so ago? And that's in the cash flow management. I will cover just a tad of that in this, but that was Monday's show. We have a podcast for that. We have a video for that, and you can get it out of the slide deck. The thing that we're going to cover today, that is the next part of this, as you're coming over the top of the wave, is becoming the lowest cost producer. And I'm going to drill down on that, but do not read price into that, read cost. And then the third thing here is kind of a suite of things together. is the conversation about organic sales, going after your existing customer base. Then if you move over to the other side of the graph, you can see re-engineer the current offer. And these are the things when we talk about strengthening the core of the business, these are the things that you're doing when things are bad. And because when things are good, you're so focused on revenue, even the big companies get enamored with all the money coming in that they get sloppy. And so that's why you got to go back and say, hey, we got sloppy again. We got fat. We ate too many cheese puffs. Now we've got to get back and lean as a business. What happens at the bottom of the market? And we're going to be doing this in a couple of weeks. You look at, you get ahead of demand and you go into markets you're currently in with your current offer. Then what you do is you look at new markets, markets like yours, customers like yours that you want to move into. And the key here is when you see an expansion of credit. The key to understand where the economy is, when credit gets loosened up after it's been tight, you're in expansion. And then finally, what you've been doing last year, and this is what we were talking about on radio shows, is what are the markets can you move into with a new offer? And so we'll cover all 7 of these. That's why we got 7. So at the crest, cash flow management is my 2 slides. What you're looking to do here is you're maximizing the amount of cash on hand that you've got and credit so you can survive the downturn and make prudent investments in the business. And what we covered were accounts payable, accounts receivable, lines of credit. All right, I'm going to take that off. I'm going to scoot on down to there. And by the way, break in any time you want to break in, because otherwise I can roll through this all day.
Yes, I'm managing the chat, so I'm here for you.
Okay. So we've got this money that supposedly we put together. You don't need that money, but let's work on the supposition that you have. Then what do I want to do is that I've gone after the easy stuff, what we would call the low-hanging fruit. That you probably heard that term, or what gold is on the ground I can pick up, so I don't have to go mine. Now I've got to have to mine. And this idea of lowest cost producer is how do I do something for better, do it for less, and do it faster. So if I put that together, better means can I improve the quality of what we do step by step? Because if I do that, I'm going to reduce costs, I'm going to reduce time. Faster is exactly that. Plus, can I take some steps out of the process so that if I do those 2 things, if we're doing a better job on initial build, whether I'm building a product or delivering a service, and I can do it faster because there's fewer steps, it's going to cost me less. And so I'm going to be taking a look at fixed costs and variable costs in terms of my business. Now, this is not an accounting class, so I'm going to be looking at this from the terms of what are we doing so I can get at these numbers. 2 types of operations in business. So this is kind of a mindset, a way to look at your business. Number 1 is you have cost centers in the company, and these are people that are there, the staff that are hired to support the people who are generating revenue. The revenue generators, the sales force, and if you make things, and who works in production. If you're delivering services, then who are the delivery people, the service people, etc. Well, you also got some people handling accounting, HR perhaps, maybe the president, CEO has admin. If it's just you, then it's you doing these things. But these things have to be done because if you don't bill, you're not going to get paid. If you don't take care of HR, and you know what I'm talking about. And so what I want to do here is I need to understand is that I don't generate any money out of here, but I do affect what my profitability is. Because after I paid for everything else, I still got this nut to target. And I'm going to come back to the 10% in a second. On the revenue centers, which are the things that are externally focused, these are variable costs. The fixed cost is, it doesn't matter how much of something I make, I'm still going to pay the same rental bill or the same mortgage payment. On the variable cost what it costs me is totally based on the volume of work. In other words, the more volume I have, the bigger the net number is, but the lower the number is per unit. And so in any manufacturing or even in service, I need to get either my machines or my people working at least 80 to 85% of their capacity in order to break even on having them work here. It's interesting what that number is, and it fits for both. And what I'm looking to do here is I'm looking to increase my revenue by maximizing my resources. And the target is 15%. So now let me stop. I do a lot of business turnarounds. I haven't been doing any lately because it sucks the life out of you. It's like, they're like vampires. It just takes all the emotion and everything out of you because you're on the hook for everything. What I do with people that are in the fixed cost side is I simply say, look, we got to reduce what we're doing by 10%. Now, I'm telling you is that if you've never done it, there's more here than 10%. But psychologically, if you went to somebody and say, I need a 25% cost reduction, I know what most people think. My God, I can't do that. But 10%, people seem to have the ability to go, well, 10%? Yeah, we could find 10% here. And so I simply push them to go, how do we reduce what we're doing by 10%? So if it's just you running your business and you're looking at all the things that you're doing to keep the business running that has nothing to do with the customer, how do I reduce that by 10%? 10% reduction in actual things that I buy, 10% reduction in the amount of time I spend at it. Because if I'm doing this, I'm not doing something that generates revenue.
So
Now,
Bill,
yeah.
just to interject, so we have some independent professionals on here, and that would be
Right.
what you're spending on marketing or what you're spending to get your word out there. That if you don't have a building or people, you could do it in different ways, right?
Yeah, it's just a matter of, the easiest way without getting into an accounting class, because there's so many different ways. I thought this was simple until I talked to some accounting people, and then they made it difficult for me. So I'm going to go back to the simple. Fixed cost is the stuff that doesn't change. Every month you got to pay it. So how do I take that down by 10%? Variable cost is it's totally based upon what I do. And so production comes in here. And I target 15%. And the reason for 15 here is it's a manageable number. But if you put these two together, I have found about 20% is possible. So now if I got a 20% reduction in cost, that gets me ready for the presentation on Monday, because the next thing I'm going to do is proactively go to my customers with some price reductions to them. Because if I don't proactively go after them, then I'm going to lose them, because they got the same problems I've got. They're worried about money. They're worried about, can we afford this or that. I want to become a partner of theirs by going in and saying, look, I looked hard at this. We've been doing some process improvements, and I can give it to you for 15% less. I wouldn't give them everything I save, because I'm probably going to need another discount before this downturn is over. So I'm going to give them some portion of what I saved. Okay, so I just look at a cost versus revenue, and when I get to the next couple of slides, I'll show you how to do that. But just psychologically, just look at it like that. All right, let's go to the cost center, and I did that one first. And if you got a group of people to do this, this is wonderful. Otherwise, do it yourself. You want to make a visual map of every process. What does that mean? I'm going to take accounts payable, and I'm going to get out index cards, and for every step, I'm going to say, here's what I do with this step, this step, this step. I heartily recommend you do this yourself if it's just you. And you put two walls up. You occupy two walls in your office. One is a cost wall, one's a revenue wall. Because if nothing else, it'll prompt you on how to run a better business. But I built a visual map of these core processes, so I could have accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, maybe some HR stuff. So I may have 5, 6 processes up. And I put them up there, index card by index card. Now, where do I get my savings from? So what I want to do is I want to say to myself, or if I got a team of people, they've been doing this, I'm not doing this for them, they're doing it. I'm going to say, can I reduce the steps? Can I reduce the amount of time or labor that's involved in each one of those? In other words, in the terms of quality, can I remove any non-value? Well, what non-value means is that if you itemized the bill and gave it to the customer, would they be willing to pay it, or would they look at it and go, I ain't paying for that? And so I want to remove all the non-value I can possibly pull out of the process. Okay, so customer requirements. Let's say that, let's do this as a department for a second and not as a solo entrepreneur. For a department, you're there, you're accounting or you're HR, and you're there to serve the people making money for the business. Okay, what requirements are they putting on you? That's who you're servicing right here. So I look at all the steps going, is that required? Is that required? Is that required? If the answer is no, I have a candidate to kick out. The second question here is there some other factor that's requiring me to do that? Is it because, you know, it's engineering issue and we got to build it in? Is it a quality issue? Is it safety? Is there some government requirement that I have to do it? In other words, is there some other reason that it's on there? Because if I get a no on both of these, it is non-value, pull it off the wall. You don't have to do it. And that's how you can quickly get at what's going on. Now, if you've never done it for yourself before, this will be quite the event, because you'll be going, my God, we do all that, or I do all that just to get that out the door. And so once you put it up, it gives you the chance to do two things. One is to really seriously analyze what you're currently doing, and two, give you targets to go, there are savings up here. Now, how do I find those? Okay. Well, what I want to do is I want to assign whatever fixed costs that are going on around here to each one of the steps. How do I do that? All right, here's the easy stuff. So I'm going to use time as the easiest way of doing it. There's plenty of accounting models, but time is the simplest. So let's say that I work 200 hours a month, and it costs me $20,000 to keep the doors open, regardless of whether I make anything or deliver any services. And by the way, I picked these numbers so that my math is easy. So what does it tell me? Every hour the door is open, it costs me $10. Okay, I got a number. So what I want to do now is I want to look at each one of those steps going, how long does that step take? If it takes 30 minutes, that's $5. If it takes an hour and a half, that's $15. And what you begin to do is you begin to put cost on those. So we get at the end of the process, you get 10 steps, and you're going, it cost me $400 to do that. You can say to yourself, can I do that cheaper? Or it could be, and maybe not in this environment, because right now everybody's worried about money, maybe I got a candidate to outsource because I could probably get that done for less than $400. But the easiest way of doing this is simply saying, what does it take to keep the doors open? Divide by the number of hours per month that you work, come up with a cost per hour, and that's the easiest way to fix cost to that. Okay? Then what I want to do is then, what other costs, additional costs, do I want to assign to it? And that could be my labor. I know a lot of business owners that do not calculate what it costs them to run their business. They don't figure out what they cost per hour to the business. That's crazy, because you'll never get at what's going on. I have a good friend of mine, Donna knows. He's a farmer. He grows cattle, hogs, and chickens. And we went through this whole thing, and when he got done, he stopped chickens and he's stopping hogs, because what he realized when he looked at the time investment, that the cattle part of the business was the only thing that was returning any type of margin, because he never accounted for his own time. And because the cattle didn't take much and the chickens took a lot of work, and they just weren't worth it. So I just want to assign that to each step so I have a total cost of what it does. And then I want to leave this up. This is my new map that I'm going to look at, and with scorecards I'll come back to it, because if I've got people working for me or if I'm doing it myself, you know what I want to do every day or every week? I want to put my numbers up. You want the easiest way to drive performance is to put the numbers up and look at where you're going day to day or week to week, depending upon what's appropriate. All right, revenue center, same list. Visual map, I put it up. Is it required by the customer that I've sold this to? Is this a requirement that they pay for? Is it some other requirement that I have to engage in? What I want to do now is for each step, because I know what my fixed costs are because I've already assigned them, I'm going to put my $20 on per hour for each one of those steps. So again, if it's 30 minutes, that's a $10 step. If it's 2 hours, then it's a $40 step. So I've got my cost in my process. And now I want to take a look at what my variable costs. And I picked 30 bucks to keep all my numbers even. So it means that, okay, I had to buy some materials to do this step, and the labor of doing this step, this is what I'm paying myself. Okay, that cost me 30 bucks. So what that says then is that I have, for each one of my processes, I've assigned what it costs me to do it. And I can tell you that it really is enlightening when you've never done it, because now you can check your pricing and go, well, what is really my margin on this work I'm doing? And when I do this with people for the first time, and this is what happened to Robert, he realized that 2 of his 3 product lines he was losing money on. He was paying people to basically buy his chickens, and he was paying people to buy his hogs. And it's like, why are we doing that? When I did a turnaround in Southwest Virginia, I found out that half the business we were doing, we were paid people to install our cabinets in their facilities. And we don't want to do that. Now, the other thing I added here for something to consider in the future is, well, what should my margins be? And what I learned over the years is that if you want to run a profitable business, then my gross margin should be around 60%. So what that means is that step, if we just use the numbers I put here, that step I should be able to charge $83 for that step. So if I have 10 steps, and let's just assume that they're all priced the same, that means that particular issue, I have to charge at least $830, not only to pay for all the costs of it, but also to put a healthy margin in. Because if you got a 60% gross margin, more than likely you're looking at about a 20 to 25% profit. If your gross margins are under 30%, I can guarantee you your profitability is not in double digits. And so that's the other way of looking at this. Now, we're not having that conversation right now. We will, next Wednesday? Yeah. Next Wednesday we'll have this conversation when we talk about re-engineering the firm, because this is what you're looking to do when you're coming out of a recession and the economy is about to pick up. This is the core stuff that you built to put greater strength into the business. Okay, and I want to post a map with scorecards. Let me see here. Go back. All right, so I rolled to those pretty fast, so let me stop. What do we have time-wise? I have 26, so I was a little bit more efficient today. Questions or comments or dialogue or debate that you want to get into on this lowest cost producer concept?
So how would I apply this to my business as far as, I mean, first of all, this is a huge wake-up call for me because I have not been very good with my visuals, nor have I really been factoring in my margin, which is pretty bad. And again, this is a huge wake-up call, so thank you. Should my margin be the same as what you're discussing here as an independent contractor?
I would say to you ultimately, yes, or a different way of saying it is, what do I have to do to get it? Which was another way of looking at it, or another way of looking at it would be, do I want to go into that line of business? And so no matter how you do it, let's say you come up with 30 to 35% is the best margin you can pull off. I think you're really at a yes-no point to go, do I really want to do it? Because is it going to be worth a return? If I do $1 million worth of business and I have a 9% profitability at the end of the year, is it worth 90? Do I want to do $1 million worth of business to get $90,000?
Yeah,
and then but it gives you the ability to ask yourself that question.
right.
I think right now the biggest thing to do would be to map out your processes, take your office on one wall or section the wall off. On one wall, put all your cost up. On the other wall, put up all your revenue, attach some numbers to it, and just stare at it for a while. Because what you need to do next will become apparent.
Right. I love this. Thank you.
You're welcome. And trust me, it's about as simple as it goes, because I do this with manufacturing people. I do it with people who don't even speak English. And once they get it, they put it up, they're all amazed because they're going, why do we do this and why do we do that? And that's one of the big payoffs is we shouldn't be doing that. Well, then you got to make the case that we should be doing it.
Bill, we have a question in chat. Thank you, Becky, for that. The question in chat says, pardon the elementary question, but is margin interchangeable with net profit? I thought margin was before your fixed costs. A little clarification, thanks.
Oh, no, you know what? This is a great one, because this is what always happens when we get into this conversation about terminology. The way I am defining this is that my gross margin, another way of looking at my gross margin would be profit contribution from that activity. My accounting background, I've got a master's degree. I took accounting, but I'm a business guy. And so what I know about accounting is what I need to know to keep my books balanced, or when I talk to the accountant, get by. The way I was taught this was that the margin on each one of those lines of business, whatever's left over, is a profit contribution to profit before we take out fixed cost. So you really can't call it profit because it's not profitable yet. So they say gross margin or profit contribution or contribution to profit.
And Bill, you're still sharing your whole screen.
Oh, am I?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You got me into that conversation because I was laughing. I was laughing not because it's a stupid question. I was laughing because I always struggle with this because depending upon where you got your degree and what accounting classes you took, I'm finding that accounting is a Tower of Babel. Believe it or not, even though there's this thing in the United States called the NSAB, National Association Standards Board, National Accounting Standards Board, that supposedly has fixed everything and everything is the same. It isn't. Did I answer that question? Let me go look at the chat here. There we are.
Hey, yes, this is Katie. That was my question. So that helped greatly to put the conversation in reference to margin and then ultimately to get to that net profit. So thank you for that.
Okay. I would say the easiest rule of thumb that I've learned in all the years I've been doing this is if your gross margins, your margin on a piece of work is not over 40%, more than likely your profit on that work is not going to be in double digits. 35% seems to be where it teeters. And the rule of thumb for your business until you've got your own numbers is go in thirds. Third of the cost is going to be material, third of the cost is going to be labor, and a third of the cost or a third of the price, I should say, is margin. So if you're going to charge $3, what we're saying is allocate $1 for the materials required, allocate $1 for the labor, and that should leave you $1 left over as your margin on that. And then work from that number. Hopefully your number's better than that. But I did a study on all the companies that went from zero to $1 billion. Not the Googles, not the people who were able to go to Silicon Valley and get a ton of money. I'm talking about companies like ours that some owner grew it out of the shoebox or out of the cigar box and grew it into this billion-dollar firm. And what they found out is that the gross margin on average for their lines of business of things that products they produce or services they provided was around 60%. That's how they got to 20 to 25% profitability. If you're a publicly traded company and your profits at 20 to 25%, you are the darling of Wall Street. People want to kiss you on the lips, whether you want that or not.
Social distancing.
Yeah.
Great questions. Are there other questions that we can answer?
I mean, we can stay. We told everybody 30 minutes. I don't want to go beyond the 30 minutes. So I have 10:33. If you want to stay on and talk or go through any of these, awesome. If not, I understand. The one thing I would say, and I'll turn it back to Donna, is that, yeah, that's what happened. I screwed that up. So let me go there. Is that what we're going to be doing next Monday we're going to be taking this idea of organic sales. So if I take number one of what we did on Monday, and I'm doing better on accounts payable, accounts receivable, I got some lines of credit lined up, or I kind of cleaned that up, and now I found these cost savings. Now I'm ready to go talk to my customers and take control of the business I have with them before they start canceling. Because as the economy is getting worse, everybody's getting afraid because we're in it right now. And everybody's going, well, I'm not sure that I can honor that. I'm not sure I can pay it. I know definitely, I told you I was going to buy that in a month. I'm not going to buy it. I don't want to wait for that phone call. I want to show up with the visit going, I'll tell you what I can do for you, and that is everything from this point forward, I'll reduce the price by 15% and see how much business I can hold. So if I found 20% and I'm giving 15, I'm still ahead. All right, Donna.
So I just put my email address in the comments. Our purpose is to help businesses grow. That's why Bill and I do this. That's why we're coming on here for 30 minutes every Monday and Wednesday for the next couple of weeks. And that's why we do our radio show, 2020 Sales Solutions. So we want to be the resource for you. We want to help businesses grow, and not just you, but if you have others in your network, please, please, please share us with them so that we can help more people together. I think this is this time when we all really need each other to come together to find out who's still got that passion and the drive and wants to make it work. So please consider sharing us with your network as we move forward. Tomorrow we're going to be, today's Wednesday, yeah, tomorrow we're going to be in the studio. So if you're on Facebook at 2020 Sales Solutions, you can see our behind the scenes. We go live every Thursday as we record our show that airs on WMTW on Saturday and Sunday. And tomorrow, one of my mentors is coming in, Chris Robinson, who is the Executive Vice President of the John Maxwell Team section of John's company and is also our sales faculty. He has been fielding questions on a call that he does weekly for the sales lane with sales people, business owners, and professionals globally across the world. And so he's really in touch and has a pulse on the struggles that are coming. We're going to get real tomorrow. He's going to be answering some of the limiting beliefs that have been coming up, like, can I sell in this situation? Is anybody still buying? And those types of things. So I encourage you to join us tomorrow.
Okay.
The show, the question is, what time is our show? Did you just answer that? No. What time is the show tomorrow on Facebook? So at 1:45, what Bill and I do every week at around 1:45. We have to let Facebook get warmed up, but around 1:45 we do a behind the scenes, and it's in the studio where we're coming and giving an update weekly on what we've been doing to grow our business. We have a startup as well. We're building. We've got boots on the ground, as we say in the Army. So we just share what's been working with us, maybe what hasn't been working so well. Most of the stuff we're doing is pretty good so far. And so that starts at 1:45 every Thursday. And then at around 2 p.m., we start recording the show. And the neat thing about that is if you've ever thought of doing your own podcast, when you come on, we walk you through it. We tell you what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we coach our guests as they come on. And it stays live the whole time through there. And then Bill goes back and edits it for the radio show that airs on Saturday at 10 a.m. and Sundays at 4 p.m. on 92.7 FM, 820 a.m. That sounded so salesy.
You can still see my screen.
Yes.
All right.
Oh yeah, there we are.
Let me. I think that's a podcast. Yeah.
It's Thursdays. Every Thursday is the day of the week. So tomorrow and every Thursday moving forward is when we record. Thank you for asking.
All right. Let me see here.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks, Becky. It's been really neat to bring in our guests that come in. This week, as I mentioned, is Chris Robinson. Next week, my friends Kay and Shy, they own a franchise of restaurants out in the West Coast. They're based out of Reno, Nevada, and they're going to be sharing how they've been using their email list with crisis communication, as they call it. They have been doing the old style PBS a-thons, if you will. So they've been doing them on Facebook and getting donations so that they can keep their people employed, and they're making meals for the hospital workers. So they're going to be sharing some real neat email strategies the following week.
Yeah, if anybody wants the any of the podcasts, you can see it up here. You got it on screen. 2020 Sales.Solutions, and then go to Tools, and you'll see Podcast. And we keep probably a month or two up here, and then everything else is archived. We have about 100 and almost 200 podcasts in inventory. So just about any topic. We're focused on sales right now because that's critical. Everybody's got to figure out how to keep revenue coming in.
So yeah, we'd love to see you come. We'd love to love if you could share us with your networks so that, again, it's our purpose. We're putting this out there at no cost to anybody. We're just really wanting to share the knowledge that we've gained over the years so that we can all get through this together, strengthen our economy so that we can have the America that we love.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody being on. Thank you so much, Jason, Becky. And is there anything else that we can do for you? Like I said, I'll stay on. I only have to work this afternoon, so it doesn't matter. I'd rather talk to you than do stuff I'm doing.
So it looks like we've come to a close on the questions. Thank you again. We're going to be doing this again on Monday, so we hope to see you Monday morning at 10 a.m. for the next part in the series. And why grow alone? Bring a friend. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Be safe.